Let's Talk Steelers is sponsored by Italian Village Pizza, Lawrenceville Distilling. Enjoy their handcrafted spirits. Visit Canton, Ohio. Red Fox Winery and Lounge. Call any Italian Village Pizza on Steelers game day and say, "Let's talk Steelers." And any size pizza is buy one, get one free. Takeout or delivery. Let's talk Steelers.
Huddle up, Steelers Nation, it's Tank. Let's talk Steelers. Does your head hurt as bad as my head hurts right now? Have you ever been in an abusive, whether it be mental or, a relationship? Maybe it was a teacher that used to beat you over the head like Mrs. Kazemchek used to whack me in the head in 5th grade because I suck at math. S-U-K. That 4 letters. F-O-R. There's math for you. This lady hit me in the head because I was with a pen, a pencil, and I would cry because I probably wanted to punch her. I didn't realize it, with my temper. Anyway, I'm Tank. You're listening to Let's Talk Steelers here on Wheeling Fox Sports Radio. Yeah, baby. This is my time slot, 10 a.m. every Saturday morning. I get to rattle off my nonsensical view of the world. And quite frankly, I don't care if you care. I don't care if you like what I have to say that Mike Tomlin needs fired. Like the guy who did you see? The guy bought a billboard in Pittsburgh this week. Paid good hard dollars too. I don't know, maybe this guy doesn't pay the electrical bill and is putting up billboards instead, and his wife is going, "Larry, there's no electricity!" And the guy's like, "Yeah, but I bought a billboard that says fire Tomlin." She's like, "Larry, I'm leaving you and going to my mother's." So I don't know where he got to buy a billboard. I mean, they're not cheap. Let's say that. But there's somewhere in Pittsburgh a billboard that says Mike Tomlin, "Dear Mr. Rooney, fire Mike Tomlin or sell the team." How did we get here? How did we get to this place in time, in history, February of 2025, that a devoted, a rabid Steelers Nation, that the iconic quote says, if you meet a Steelers fan, they'll say, "Damn right, I bleed black and gold. I bleed black and gold." That isn't a Seattle Sea Chickens fan. I mean, they're fair weather out in Seattle. Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson delivered them championships. The Legion of Boom secondary, they couldn't tell you, what a slot receiver does, what a Michael linebacker does, what a post pattern is, but they dress up like sea chickens and go to games and go, "We're really loud." They don't bleed green or teal or whatever Penguins color is out there in Seattle. We bleed black and gold in Pittsburgh. We live and die by this franchise. A picture of Coach Noll, Chaz Noll, the Emperor. For you young kids, that's what Coach Noll's nickname was by the great one, Myron Cope. The Emperor. The Emperor of the NFL, because he won 4 Super Bowls in 6 seasons, did Chuck Noll and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Rocky Bleier, Mel Blount, Mike Webster, you know the names. So here's the arc where I'm heading with this, how we got to February of 2025 with people putting up billboards and fans like yourself screaming for Mike Tomlin's head. You know, nobody handed Chuck Noll the keys to a Maserati. Nobody handed the keys to a Lamborghini and said, here you go, Chaz. All you got to do is just don't crash her. No. Chuck Noll, Bill Nunn. If you don't know who Bill Nunn is, you are ignorant to Pittsburgh Steelers sports history. Bill Nunn built the modern scouting departments. Actually had scouts go to college football games and evaluate talent. Prior to that, most scouting departments were looking through sources like Athlon Sports. Oh, here you go. They list out the top 5 quarterbacks. They list out the 5 top centers, 5 top linebackers. No, Bill Nunn of your Pittsburgh Steelers way back in the day, baby, invented scouting departments. Chuck Noll himself played for the great Paul Brown when the Cleveland Browns were a championship football team in the 50s as a guard. Chuck Noll so intelligent, Paul Brown used Chuck Noll to shuffle in plays from the sidelines. Noll, a mastermind of the game, played in the NFL, then got into coaching. He'd been around the game's best. You know, Jim Brown, guys like that, Paul Brown. Chuck Noll was a good football player, too. Nobody handed him the keys. In fact, they handed him the keys of a rusty Studebaker, one of the jokes of car history, when he inherited the Pittsburgh Steelers, Chaz Noll, in '69. It was rusty, beat up. There was no engine in the car that Chuck Noll got. The seats were ripped up. It was rusty. Chaz Noll took one look at that car, called the Pittsburgh Steelers, and said, I can work with this. Hey, Bill Nunn, you were talking about that kid out of Texas, that defensive lineman. What's his name? Bill Nunn replied, Joe Green. I don't know, Coach. The kid's got a nasty, nasty, nasty disposition. Chuck Noll said, my kind of football player, that Joe Green. Go get him. The drafts of the early 70s of the Steelers produced names like Lynn Swann, John Stallworth, Jack Lambert. You sit up when I say Mr. Lambert's name. Mike Webster. Chuck Noll built that team from the ground up. That team that would go on to win 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. It had been a dilapidated jalopy before that. Chuck Noll turned the Steelers franchise into a dynasty. Got a kid out of Penn State named Franco Harris. Got the blonde bomber out of Louisiana. State javelin champion in high school was Terry Bradshaw. Chuck Noll, probably out of respect for the young man who had gone to Vietnam and seen his hopes dashed after a great career at Notre Dame, having his football career ruined by a war that should have never been fought And I'm no bleeding heart liberal, kids. And I served my time in the Army too. But that Vietnam War, and I loathe communism. I loathe it. But the end of that thing didn't need to happen. Maybe Rocky Bleier didn't need to get his foot blown off. So, the chief, God rest his soul, and Chuck Noll, probably just to give the kids some hope, put Rocky Bleier on the roster. We all know now Rocky proved to be Superman, a hero, a national treasure. Chuck Noll built that team. Turned it into champions. Then after a good long stint, the writing was kind of on the wall. The Eskimos used to, well, nobody really wants to say goodbye to Grandma. They call it when you can't chew the seal fat anymore. The Eskimos would build an igloo. And this is true. And they would hug Grandma and tell Grandma they loved Grandma, and they would leave her gifts and food. They would build her an igloo and put her in it, and they would seal the igloo up. Harsh reality, right? It's truth. I'm getting a little bit long in the tooth myself. Don't build me no igloo yet, man. I'll take a flamethrower to that thing. The tank ain't done yet. Hey, your listeners, let's talk Steelers. Let's talk Steelers on Fox Sports Net Wheeling, Pittsburgh. We'll be morphing into golfing around pretty soon, baby. Yeah, the old tanker, I'm heading to Scotland and Ireland. You could learn how you could win a trip to Scotland by going and playing in Canton in August at our Team USA National Championships. Amateur golfers, you don't need a USGA GIN handicap to play. What are you talking about, Tank? Well, look, go to usascotlandgolf.com, 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 and you could learn how you could be a member of Team USA and win a trip to St. Andrews. So, the Emperor Chaz Noll's time passed. The Pittsburgh Steelers turned to a homeboy, a guy named Bill Cowher. Now, if you never saw Bill Cowher, he's scary. He's scary. This cat played football like it was meant to be. Probably him and Jack Lambert are third or fourth cousins, I bet. Bill Cowher grew up a Steelers fan in the North Side. Bill Cowher saw the teams of the 70s. Bill Cowher respected Charles Noll. He respected the Chief and Dan Rooney. More so, he respected the fan base in Pittsburgh. I was there for that era here in Pittsburgh during the 90s. Man, I saw them all. I saw when number 14 never mentioned his name around me through the interception against the Chargers. There went that Super Bowl dream. I was in Dallas when number 14 dare not mention his name around me through the 2 interceptions that blew the game against the Cowgirls. It's a pain you can't understand, baby, unless you've been there. Chuck Noll extended the vision of the Steelers. Chuck Noll then handed off the mantle of what the Pittsburgh Steelers were, what the core was. to Bill Cowher. You know, I've had my media credentials for the Steelers for a long, long time. At one point in one season, the championship season, Super Bowl 43 in Tampa. That season, for whatever reason, I decided, I'm a journalist. I get ideas in my head. I get thoughts. So, starting in training camp in Latrobe, it's my hometown, it's not Latrobe, it's Latrobe, that's how you say that. Throughout the season, I went to different management at different times, including Dan Rooney himself, including Dick LeBeau. And the question I asked was a simple one. Why were the Pittsburgh Steelers able to be a championship competitive team for so long, going back to Charles Noll, Chuck Noll, to that date in 2008. And it was amazing at different times of the season, at different places. Dan Rooney, Dick LeBeau, others in the organization, all told me the same thing, verbatim. We surround ourselves with good people. We surround ourselves with good people. We surround ourselves with good people. It became very apparent to me that wasn't by happen chance. That all the people in the Steelers organization at different times throughout that campaign in 2008 repeated the mantra, the philosophy. We surround ourselves with good people. And you think about some of the people like Polamalu, good people. So how did we get here in February of 2025 that people are buying billboards in Pittsburgh saying fire Mark Tomlin or get rid of the team? How did we get to the point where I'm losing my mind? I feel like I'm in an abusive relationship. Well, kiddies, the answers to these questions are coming up in the next segment of Let's Talk Steelers, here on Fox Sports Net, Wheeling, Pittsburgh, Radio, 1400 AM, 103.9 FM. All right, go listen to some commercials. Change your underwear. Strap your ankles. Strap your jaw. Put your helmet on, because I'm bringing the heat on Mike Tomlin in the next segment. Hey, welcome back to Let's Talk Steelers. I'm your host, Tank Tantlinger, here every Saturday morning on Fox Sports Net, Wheeling, Pittsburgh, Radio. We will be transitioning into the Golfing Around show here in the next couple weeks. Golf is coming. If you would like to win a trip to St. Andrews, Scotland, you amateur hacker golfer, listen up. Log on to usascotlandgolf.com, usascotlandgolf.com, usascotlandgolf.com. Go to our website, and you're going to see about our amateur golf tournament. You don't need a USGA GIN handicap to play in our events. We're going to be doing a local qualifier here in Wheeling this summer. If you win your flight in Wheeling, you'll win your entry into Canton, Ohio in August. It's where our national championships will be played. If you win your flight in Canton, you win a trip to St. Andrews, Scotland to play for Team USA. Again, no USGA GIN handicap required. Log on to usascotlandgolf.com, usascotlandgolf.com to learn more. Then, of course, we're going to be adding the, I think you're in for a treat. Who's a Pirates fan around here? Anybody? We're adding a new segment to the show. It's called Let's Talk Buccos. Let's talk Buccos. Yeah, that's right. The kids in the dugout, I call them kids. I'm 60 years old. These kids are in their 20s. To me, they're kids. Some of the brightest, youngest, sharpest kids. Well, you're going to hear them in the next segment from the dugout with their Let's Talk Buccos show. Old Nate and Peyton there. And these kids are the up-and-coming talent. I always tell them when I'm dead and buried, you guys better remember me when you've got your TV shows and radio shows going. Some of the very best minds in sports talk in Pittsburgh right now, Nate and Peyton. And I got to tell you, these guys love baseball. If you're one of these guys that are into the numbers and into the deep dive on Buccos Pirates talk, well, we got you here at Fox Sports Wheeling iHeart Pittsburgh with Let's Talk Buccos from the dugout with Pirate Peyton and Nate. But that'll be in the third segment. All right. How did we get here, Steelers Nation? If you heard the first segment, how did we get here in 2025 that people are buying billboards that say, "Fire Mike Tomlin"? "Hey, Art Rooney II, sell the team." I mean, this was a dedicated fan base. I wrote a story, or I should call it a, a doctoral thesis on our Facebook page at Let's Talk Steelers Facebook, and that's STIL-RS. You can read it. It got a lot of hits. And when I wrote it, I didn't know what people were going to say. I would say 90% of the people that commented agreed with me. As I said in the first segment, Chuck Noll wasn't handed a Lamborghini. He built, along with Bill Nunn in the scouting department, a franchise that won 4 Super Bowls in 6 seasons. Call that a dynasty. That dynasty was then handed out to the good stewardship of Bill Cowher. And he's benefited as well from the best scouting department in the NFL. And why do I say that? You guys that are sports fans know this. Western PA, Ohio, West Virginia, we play football. We invented the game. The first pro game was played in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, not Canton. We invented football around here. We put a few guys in the NFL through the years. You know the names. Johnny Unitas, Dan Marino, Jim Kelly, Bill Fralick, Bill Moss. We know football in Western Pennsylvania. The scouting department for the Steelers was the best because these guys had played the game and learned from some of the best coaches. Bill Cowher was the steward of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he managed it well. Did he not, sir? Did he not? Were you not entertained? Did you not enjoy the Super Bowl? Even though we lost in Dallas, there were a couple others along the way, weren't there? There were AFC championship games. There were all pros. But like the old Eskimo grandma that the Eskimos build the igloo and stick her inside and seal it up and say, "Granny, we love you, but you just can't chew the seal fat anymore." Bill Cowher knew it was time to go. Then came Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin. The name alone these days evokes passion, I'll say. Passion. You have adamant Mike Tomlin defenders and fans. However, after 18 seasons, the scales have fallen from the eyes. That's a biblical quotation, meaning you can see the truth. Chuck Noll built a team from the ground up, a horrible team. He built into a dynasty. Mike Tomlin was handed the keys to a dynasty franchise. Mike Tomlin was handed the keys to a Ferrari. The Rooney Rule became effect about the same time. And I'm all for, based on merit, the best man for the job. I don't care if he's green and he can lead my Pittsburgh Steelers to the promised land and has antennas and comes from Ork. I don't care. If he's a football guy and can lead my team, because I bleed black and gold too, baby. I don't care what color you are. Can you tell me the color of a man's soul? Only God knows that answer. But it's come to me, I think, that Dan Rooney himself came up with the Rooney Rule, and they went looking for that coach, and they found it in Mike Tomlin. I don't think it was the best man for the job scenario. I think, and I'm guessing here, that they said, we can prop him up. We know we have one of the best organizations in the league. We know we have one of the best scouting departments in the league. We've got remnants of Bill Cowher's team left here. We can prop Mike Tomlin up, and he'll catch on. That's what I think happened here. I truly believe that Mike Tomlin is an average football coach. I think he's been the beneficiary of the Rooney Rule. I think he's been a beneficiary of a great organization. And let me explain a great organization to you. And again, for you guys that don't listen to the show a lot, I played left bench at Pitt. I worked for the NFL Players Association for a while. I have coached football on a high school level. When I was with the NFL Players Association in their contract research department, Gene Upshaw, you remember him, he played for the Raiders, was the executive director. It was time to spread my wings, and I got a few job interviews with the Denver Broncos, the Raiders, amongst other teams. The Broncos facilities are incredible, man. You go into them, and Pat Bowlen out there spends money like it's water. Beautiful facility. You walk in, and they've got these beautiful bronze statue of horses. It's like 20 feet high. Thing's got to be millions of dollars. Oak everywhere, marble. Good organization. When I had my interview when they were with the Los Angeles Raiders in El Segundo, how do I explain this to you? Al Davis bought a used junior high school. It looked as if he sent Marcus Allen and Howie Long to Walmart and said, here's $100. Go buy a bunch of silver and black paint, the cheap stuff. And the team is painting this place next week. The weight room was antiquated for the Los Angeles Raiders. It's not a good organization for a long time. And I love the Raiders. And I love what's going on out there with Pete Carroll coming aboard and Tom Brady becoming franchise owners. Second favorite team in football. We all know the Cincinnati Kitty Cats for a long time were a bad organization till they changed management. So when I say the Steelers were and still are a great organization that helped prop up Mike Tomlin, this is what I mean. I am convinced had Mike Tomlin been hired by, say, the Cincinnati Bengals when they around that same time period, or the Browns in that same time period, Mike Tomlin wouldn't have lasted more than 3 or 4 years. Couple a good organization with the Stil'rs, with one of the best scouting departments. And Mike Tomlin's been a lucky, lucky man. But luck, coupled with a great organization and a great scouting department, does not make a great coach. Does not make another Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher. What is evident now, 18 years into this process, is that Mike Tomlin doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Dick LeBeau fired. Mike Munchak ran out of town. Bruce Arians said, I've had enough of this junk with Tomlin. Retired, only to go on to win a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. Tomlin's hiring of Todd Haley, Randy Fichtner, Matt Canada, and now this clown show in Arthur Smith. Think about that. That's Tomlin's hire. That's not the Rooney family. That's not the scouting department. That's Mike Tomlin that hired these guys. And you can all say that Todd Haley was a good offensive coordinator. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. That was the Killer Bees era. When that scouting department gave them and found them 2 guys in Le'Veon Bell, a nobody in Antonio Brown. You had Ben Roethlisberger. You had Mike Munchak's offensive line. You had Troy Polamalu. Look, I'm out of time here. We're going to pick this up for next week's show. My berating of, well, I'm going to buy my own billboard. All right, in next segment coming up, it's going to be Let's Talk Buccos with Pirate Peyton and Nate. I think you're going to enjoy these guys. Like I said, they're the up-and-comers in broadcasting in Pittsburgh, and boy, do they know, they know Pirates baseball. All right, we'll be right back.